Hi everyone and welcome back. It's Mindy and I'm here today for Pink and Main making these. I actually have two cards that I made, but I'm just going to show you the one, and this is using the new stamp Fiesta. So be warned, this card may make you thirsty. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'm going to go ahead and show you the Fiesta stamp set. This has a lot of really fun images and sentiments on it, some cute little faces. I decided to go with the margarita. I just thought that was a really cute image to work with, and I'm going to stamp it multiple times. And there's also coordinating dies that you can purchase separately as well, and I'll have those linked in the video description below and also on my blog. So here you'll see I went ahead and stamped those three margaritas. I was going to make them three different colors, and they are stamped on Neenah Solar White cardstock, the 80-pound, I believe this was, and it's stamped in a Copic friendly ink so that I can color with my Copic markers. Now, when coloring them, I did go ahead and Google images of margaritas just to get the different colors and the shading of them, just to kind of see, yeah, watch for flying markers there, just to kind of see where the shading would go. So that is kind of what I went off of, is if I'm not really sure something, I Google pictures of it. So I'm just putting some shading along the sides a little bit, well, some on the right and then a little bit on the left, and then just a little bit of color right between where the glass is and that already highlight that's there. And then I'm using three different marker color combinations for each margarita, and I blend them out darkest to lightest. And I do typically go over my images twice when coloring, just because with the Neenah Solar White, which is just my preferred cardstock to use when coloring, it does soak up color quite a bit, and I find that going over it twice really helps me get a nice blend. So that's just personal preference. You use whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you're used to using. So I'm just finishing off deepening up my edges on my margaritas. These are making me really thirsty. And then for the actual glass, I didn't do a lot of shading with this. I just wanted to add a little bit of shadows. I didn't want to really color in the entire pieces of it because that really wasn't my focal point and I wasn't as concerned with it. So I'm just coming in with some cool grays, adding a little bit of shading underneath where the bowl of the glass is sitting and then towards the bottom. And I'll do that on all three of those. And then I colored the lime the same for each one. So I actually used the same color combination that I did for my green glass, but then I also added in another darker color, which I think was the Y99. I added for the lime for the darkest color, and that was what I started with, just to change it a little bit so it didn't blend too much with my green margarita there. So, and that I kept a pretty simple coloring too, just adding in some shading areas like where it's slid into the glass, on the edge of the glass there. I added some shading, a little bit of shading from the middle points of the lime, and then blending them out from darkest to lightest. So this stamp set is part of the April 2018 release from Pink and Main Stamps. So I'll have their website linked below as well. You can go ahead and check them out, see what other fabulous products came out during this release. A lot of really cute sets to work with. And this stamp set, like I said, has quite a few different things on it to play with. So I just wanted to go with something colorful, and margaritas are fun. So that is what I went with. So I'm just getting these finished up, and then we're going to go ahead and get these die cut out. There are coordinating dies. Really nice thing about Pink and Main dies is that they come already separated. There's no wire cutters needed. So I'm just going to take that margarita die. I'm going to hold that in place with some Post-it note tape. I really like the Post-it note tape because it does not rip my paper. It's a nice low tack, so it will hold my die in place while cutting it, but it won't rip it when I go ahead and take the die off of the cut image. So I'm going to line this up for each one, and I'll get those die cut out and set off on the side. This is the hexagon die from Pink and Main, and that is what I'm going to use on my card. This is going to be the front panel of my card. So I'm going to take these, and I'm going to have to run this through my machine 3 different times. So I'm just lining this up with the top, and I'm going to place it throughout the card. So 3 different places where it's going to be hanging off of the edge there. And I'm going to also hold that down with the low tack tape, Post-it note tape, sorry, and get that run through my machine. So that'll be the front panel of my card. Now to create those colors in the background, I wanted to do kind of a gradient of different colors. Fiesta, a really fun card. I already have some colorful margaritas. So I'm going to do a little ink blending with my Distress Oxide inks. And I'm doing this on top of a craft mat. This is a really nice craft mat. It's kind of have a rubber, I guess, on the back so that it doesn't slide all over the place when I'm doing some ink blending. So on here you're seeing I started out with fossilized amber. I actually, in my first example, the first card I did was with the circles, and I used spiced marmalade. But I will come back in with that because I didn't realize I grabbed the wrong one at first. So I started out with the darker one, and then I'm coming in with the squeezed lemonade, and I'm adding that on the top, kind of blending these two together so it has that gradient effect. And I'll bring my front panel over and just line that up and make sure that my colors are lining into the area that I want it to. And what I'm going to end up doing is bringing in Post-it note tape to kind of mask off some areas because I was starting to get into the other hexagon holes that I had cut out. So there you saw I came in with the spiced marmalade. I liked that a lot better. Had a little bit more contrast to it. And then just blending that out with the squeezed lemonade, making sure that that's fitting into the area that I need. And then this is where about I realized I was starting to get too close to my area. So I kind of lined it up and just threw some Post-it note tape down. Post-it note tape, yes. And then came back in with more of that spiced marmalade so I could really kind of get that gradient effect that I wanted. And then I can remove it, remove that Post-it tape. That's what I was looking for, Post-it tape, not Post-it note tape, Post-it tape. It's been a long morning. And then I'm going to go ahead and mask off the area that I had just done so I don't get my colors mixed into each other. So now I'm going to come in with some blues. And for this, I'm going to use the Salty Ocean and Blueprint Sketch. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one as I did with the yellow, and also masking off that bottom part, kind of learning from the first time. Starting with that Salty Ocean. And I'm just using some circular marks. This is actually Bristol Smooth Cardstock that I'm ink blending on. It's a really nice smooth cardstock, and the oxides blend good to begin with, but they're really good on the Bristol Smooth. So I barely have to do any work on here. So just double checking, make sure that my color is in that area again. And then I'll do the same thing. I'm going to mask off that blue, and then I can go ahead and do the purple, which I'm going to use Shaded Lilac and Wilted Violet. And then the same thing, just doing the light to dark or the dark to light. Either way, it doesn't matter because they blend so well together. And then I just go back over the top of it to make sure that there's no distinct line of separation there. And that'll get the ink blending finished off. So there are my pretty colors. Between my margaritas in the background, I almost have a rainbow. And then I took some water and spritzed it on my mat and picked it up with a paintbrush. And I'm just going to flick some water droplets on here. I didn't do this on the circle one. I'm really glad I added it to this second one that I created because it almost kind of looks like bubblies in the background, which I thought looked really cool with my margaritas. Not that margaritas bubble, but I thought it looked really cool. So, and then once I kind of wipe up my area and let that water sit on there for just a few extra seconds, then I can go ahead and dab it up with the paper towel, and it's going to leave me these whitish spots on the background because that water is going to lift the color from the oxide. So I just thought that looked really cool once this is all complete. And so now just kind of making sure that this is lining up. I'm going to go ahead and add this panel to my ink blended background there. And I'm going to end up trimming this down to, this panel itself will be trimmed down to 4 by 5 1/4 so that I can add it to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base. So there's the card base. I'm just getting that added. I trimmed a little bit off the edges and just getting that tacked down so that my panel is complete. And there was a little piece that was bugging me. So I took some Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and just added a little dab and got that tucked down so that it wouldn't catch on anything. So now I have my margaritas, and I'm just going to line up. I kind of wanted them hanging down a little bit off of those shapes. And what I'll end up doing is cutting off the red one, cutting off the bottom a little bit there, so I can have it matching up to how the other ones are looking. All right. So we'll go ahead and margaritas, of course, have salt on the rim. And I didn't do this on the first one, but like I said, once I kind of made one and I had a little bit more time to think about it and play with it, I was like, oh, I should have done this. So what I did for this one is I'm taking that Nuvo Deluxe adhesive, running a line of glue along the top, and then I'm taking this chunky glitter and I'm adding this to the rim of my glasses so that I'm hoping looks like salt along the lines of them. I did this before I had attached them to the card. I should have let them sit longer, but my dog was in the room with me and was whining to go outside, so I had to hurry up and get this attached to my card and get this video finished up. Sorry about that, but it still worked out good. I was just really careful on when I'm going to put the glue on those. So here is the Sentiment Margaritas, and I just stamped that with some Versamark ink. There's some clear embossing ink, and heat embossed it with white embossing powder and trim that down. And then I'm going to pop this up with foam squares to add to my card. And just get that set off on the side in that little white area that I had on the card. And then I can come in and start attaching my margaritas. And like I said, they were pretty dry. They weren't too bad. I just didn't push real hard when I went to put the adhesive on there. And I actually had thought about popping them up with foam squares, but then decided against it. I'll just leave it flat. I like just the sentiment popped up. So I'm going to just flip these over. And like I said, when I put the adhesive on, I'm not going to push real hard to make sure that my glitter doesn't come off. I had to get the video finished so I could let my dog out. So you'll have that when you have pets. So I'll just finish getting these added, and then I'm going to add some glossy dots that are from also Pink and Mane to just finish this off and add a little bit more embellishing to the card. So I hope you enjoyed this card. I had a lot of fun making these with the two different shapes. I'll have all of those supplies listed down below in the video description and on my blog as well. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up, and I will catch you in the next video.